I just took a huge risk. I put my pension up front and I quit the police department and I went into technology. I could write a book called What to Expect When You're Expecting to Be Acquired. Because what you expect is going to happen probably is not. I can fix this company. I can fix this within a month. This is going to take me 3. This is going to be 9. And by the time I get here, I know that trigger could be, hey, send someone over there to empty the garbage can. Or it could be, hey, someone just fell down on the ground. They've been down for 10 seconds and no one's responded. If the technical fairy dropped in front of me and said, in 2026, you will have run a whole bunch of software companies and bought and sold them, I would have been like, Mr. Technology Fairy, I'm going to have to arrest you because you don't know what you're talking about.
Hello, everyone. It's Daniel Kube here, and here's another edition of Executive Conversations. And today I'm lucky enough to have an old friend, colleague on a bunch of different levels, Brian McIlravey. And Brian and I started to work together when he was a partner of mine when I was at, where was I at the time? PB Views, or Panorama Business Views.
Yeah,
Performance Soft ultimately. And Performance Soft was sort of a dashboard for enhanced scorecarding for performance management solutions ranging from Six Sigma, Baldrige, balanced scorecard. And Brian was working at an organization called PPM 2000, and PPM 2000 was sort of in the incident management space, which is kind of a theme that rolls with you. But Brian, let's go back way back when, because when I first met you, the thing that I always thought was kind of weird is you started off your career not in software. You actually, and the security stuff came kind of honestly, but maybe take us back, because that I think really grounded your future in a lot of ways and a bunch of different dimensions. And why did you switch? And did you regret it? I mean, you could have had a huge pension by now.
Right? Yeah. That's probably the one thing I look at, because all of the guys I worked with on the police department back then, Daniel, now are retired. Like my next door neighbor, I worked with him, walked the beat with him. He became an inspector. Now he's retired. He's out cutting his grass and taking trips. And I'm like, why am I still slogging it? But no, I don't regret it. It changed my life from many different aspects. But I mean, I was a cop back in the 1900s. And when you say it that way, it sounds really, really horrible. But a whole bunch of things had kind of coalesced right to this one point. But the biggest change that really just happened was computers. Like when I left right around the very early 2000s, computers were really just starting to take off. Like think back then, you're still on Windows 95. Like people were afraid of, what was it called? Windows Millennium, I think it was called, or something. Computers are really brand new. And in the police department, when I was there in the 90s, there was not a lot of technologies. Waterloo Regional Police was one of the very first to get MDTs in our cruisers, which were these little tiny, like monochrome screen that would tell you where your call was. That was the very first of technology. So I was really into computers, and I thought these things might actually kind of change the world. I was that bought in, and I just took a huge risk. I put my pension up front and I quit the police department and I went into technology. But I went into doing what we were doing on the police department, which was incident management, incident reporting, investigations, documenting the whole process, because it completely lacked in the corporate sector, which I had learned through doing corporate fraud investigations on the police department. Was like, hang on, you mean tell me the corporate industry are doing these investigations of hundreds of millions of dollars? They don't do this basic. So I absolutely took a long shot. Now there's other stories behind why I left, which I'll tell you another story in a little bit here if we get a chance. But yeah, it was just a big risk, and it was, man, computers are really cool. And you think back then, like I thought, hey, these things are really cool. They move fast. And then you compare it to, AI today, and then everything in between. Like when I quit, there was no internet. There was no iPhone. There was no mobility. It was just really cool computers. Like that was the driver for me.
And if I remember correctly, I think PPM was a family-owned business kind of, and you were co-CEO. And I mean and the organization seemed to thrive, and you were also involved in a lot of different standards bodies, and where did you go after that, and why did you switch and change? Because I think you went to and then you moved to not a family-owned kind of business. I think you went to a professionally invested kind of organization.
Yeah, so PPM was family owned. The founder, Dennis O'Sullivan, was a cop from Ireland and then moved to Canada and started the basics of what was PPM. In the early 2000s, though, after I joined, it kind of changed from, I took it down a whole new path. The technology that started was this one technology. Computers were progressing fairly fast, and I just created this kind of new, not a new model, but a whole new way to approach it, which was completely subject. I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about revenue or how to track revenue, but I knew we needed to do something a little different to make our business better, make our customers really happier is what I was doing. I just took on, this thing, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. I learned an absolute ton. But being a CEO of that company, a really young CEO, I didn't go get my MBA. I didn't know much about business. And back then we were on perpetual licensing and professional services. And then I don't remember when ASPs came along, which was the first application service provider, which was a cloud-based system in a way. And you had to subscribe to it. And our model started changing. Then we switched to subscription base, and all these things just kind of make you grow. But then I got into this thing of, hey, we might have to raise money for this company. When we get this big and you want to get bigger, you have to make a choice. So I did, the first acquisition of PPM was to Class Capital in 2014, which, that's a whole life-changing experience on its own. You learn through that one. Then I left that. I went into a completely different industry.
PPM had some huge logos, right? You had some big companies like Fortune 500s.
Huge. Absolutely. Yeah, we had customers all over the world that range from the biggest of the biggest, like you could name some big names, and they were one of our customers, right down to small ones. But it was the bigger ones that really excelled. Like I won't say in any company, but our software just made what they do better, faster, more powerful, like the $6 million man. It was really good software for what they needed to do that they had never had before. And early on, there were really no competitors. So for us, it was easy to walk in, say, hey, we have this tool. It's going to make you better, bigger, faster, and they would just consume it. And as a company, I think one of the biggest things that I learned in that what PPM did best was just customer focused all the way. Like when I say I didn't know business, I learned revenue, I learned all the cool terms you need to know on how to run a business. But early on, it was just making sure that the people were using our tools, that it worked for them, and it worked really, really, really well. We were so laser customer focused. When you go on to a next company and you're like, okay, I think I see some things here that we can probably change. And it's then you start thinking, okay, look, I can change how we do things customer wise, but that's also going to drive revenue. So all of a sudden you sit back and you're like, wait, did I actually learn something during this process? Because I just said revenue in a word. And, now everything I do is tied to how do you make something meet the same customer focus, but tied to revenue, tied to this, all different things. So across the 25 years I've now been in private sector and technology and security, learned a ton of things. Now if I have a different aspect in sitting down to a company, I probably take the exact same approach. Like my approach is, okay, customers first, right? You want to go get some, but I don't want to lose it. I hate losing customers. I absolutely despise it. So I'm very focused on customers, keeping customers. And I think one of the biggest things is, driving customer revenue. I think one of the biggest things are people seem to think that customers won't pay. There's this thing, we should do it for free. We should do it for free. We should do it for free. Our products are really good to start with, but they were big machines. The ones that were at the really, really high scale enterprise customers, those were big machines. And I learned that, hey, if I can build a team and put that team on this company and keep that train running and have this train say, okay, here's what's coming next. We're going to build it behind that. We're going to do the requirements here. I had teams of, 12, 14 people running at individual places, but they were running it as a support team on a recurring revenue model where they would sign up for, 3 years on this model saying, hey, here's what we're going to keep doing. They have no issue ever paying because they're getting so much value from that software. I think a lot of people think, hey, we have to do this for free or the customer is going to leave. Well, they're probably not.
Very cool. And so when Class invested, what was your big learning from your first engagement with a Canadian VC?
That's a good one. So I think if I started today, Daniel, I could write a book called What to Expect When You're Expecting to Be Acquired. Because I think what you expect is going to happen probably is not. In all the transactions I've done, I've learned there's, private equity, there's good private equity, there's really, really bad private equity. Class was actually a really, really good private equity firm. Just at the time, when it's your first one, you don't really know what you're doing. So I can look back now and say, Daniel Class, he actually did what he said he was going to do. He lived up to his promises. They're friendly to deal with. But like anything, there was a plan going in that was, the first 3 to 6 months. It's like, hey, this is the plan. PPM is going to be this giant monolith, and here's what we're going to do. 3 months into that, we did the acquisition of Resolver based out of Toronto. And at that time, Resolver, they needed a bailout. They needed a rescue, which is how that happened. We really had no intention to acquire that company going in. It just popped up. But that acquisition completely changed the trajectory of the company. The PPM name got disbanded in favor of Resolver. Resolver is based out of Toronto, so all the people were there, and you sit there and you're kind of like, wait, hang on a second. This is not what you said was going to happen. I think the biggest thing in acquisitions, especially when you're the one being acquired, is there are going to be left turns and right turns that could just happen like really, really fast. So whatever you're expecting to happen, don't expect it to happen. It will change. But overall, that was a good acquisition. The growth of the company, they went on to sell again to Kroll recently for a big number. I look back and I think, it wasn't that bad. I think the biggest thing is, as a quasi founder, so I founded the product perspective. And when someone else comes into your house, like, when you build your own house, you design it, you build it, and then someone comes in and like, hey, I'm going to buy your house. I really like it. You say, okay, but you're not going to change it, right? They're like, no, I'm not going to, not going to touch anything. I love your fireplace, and then, they're going to come in, they're going to change the kitchen. They're going to change and remodel. Companies are no different. They're going to make promises saying, hey, I don't think we're going to change too much in the company. Something is going to change. The people are going to change. You might do an acquisition that changes everything. People definitely change. Private equity always, at least in my experience, have their own people. So as soon as that acquisition happens, hey, guess what? We're bringing this person in to oversee the company. And now I'm just like, oh boy, okay. So lots of changes happen, but for me, it's made me a better business person because now I've done quite a few transactions. I know what to look for. I know what to listen for. I know what to believe or what not to believe sometimes. And on the scale, Class would be right at the top of the scale. They were really good to deal with, came through on, most promises. Yeah, I ended up getting fired, but a very, very solid exit 3 years in. The new CEO that took over, Will Anderson, was really good. So it was a really amicable exit on how all things transpired there. But I've also been on the opposite end where I did an acquisition and thought everything was going to work out. Then all of a sudden it was like, oh, hey, we made a big change and you're part of that change. And I was literally like, whoa, wait, what? Are you kidding me? So you really never know what's going to happen when you do an acquisition. So every founder, every person that's out there and they're like, oh, I'm going to build this company and I can't wait to get acquired. Just wait.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you give up control, you give up control.
Give up. Oh, absolutely. You give up control, man. They have a plan.
Even when you don't give up control, sometimes you give up control based on covenants and stuff. That's okay, man. You gotta be so careful about what you sign up to.
Yeah, and make no mistake, there is a plan. Like when you're running your own company, you can go, say you go 5, 10, 15 years, maybe you get 20. A lot of private equity have a 3 to 5 year plan to grow that company and then, sell the house again to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely puts you on a different set of rails, right? Which is not a bad thing, right? Because sometimes, and it's a different set of insights. But so you left Resolver, and then where did you go?
I went to Igloo Software, which was completely outside of the industry. You might be familiar with it, Daniel.
I know them pretty well. Yeah, I know them. I think I got your wife, her job there first before I left Igloo.
You did, yes. I think she was employee number 7 or 8 when you brought her in. She loved it there. She was there 14 years, I think. I mean, she was there a long time. That one did not have a super ending, as you know, though. I think that's one of those ones that is a story for people, on investment, that when you're in a company and you're like, hey, we're going to give you options, and people buy those options, then you become a shareholder and you think, yeah, I can't wait till the company sells. People have to be cognizant when I don't say fall for the option trap, because probably most times it turns out for people, but options are not a guarantee. Even if you convert them into shareholders, you have to be very cognizant of what class of shares are you holding, that if this company sells, because the PE company and the founder might say, well, we don't care about those shares. We're taking this pile of money for ourselves, and those shareholders get left in the dust. So there are no guarantees for anybody when you are an option holder or shareholder. And I think people think, oh, I've got option in the company. That's really amazing. It could be. It could also end up being nothing. So there are stories to be told across the board. And it's a million positive stories on the other end of that. But,
I mean, Igloo had a really unique culture, but when you get taken out, and Igloo was taken out by big money, right? So I was on the beneficiary side of that because I had left. And so it was taken out as a small shareholder, but yeah, it worked out for me. But yeah, after the fact, and it was also really just a cool company. But talk about challenge.
Yeah, it was challenging. I went through different CEOs there, which made it even more challenging. For me, though, the big thing is that was a really well-run engine, despite, the personalities that may have been there. That engine, when I was there, ran really, really, really well. The customer success engine, when I walked in, I actually completely changed it because it was one of those models where sales owned everything. So if there was a renewal, the sales exec owned it. When I first came in, there would literally be like a $300,000 renewal that would be due the next week. And the salesperson would have no clue. He'd be like, oh, yeah, I should call them. And it'd be like, it's $300,000. You're going to call them? It's due next week. So I went to the CEO and I said, hey, look, I want to completely redo this thing. I want all of the customer revenue. So I took over all contracts, all upsell, all cross-sell, brought in a new team. We actually grew that really, really well. And our retention went way, way up just by managing the contracts better, putting a really good process in place, contacting earlier, resolving any issues that we knew within the 30-day closing. Those deals were all done. There was no like to the line type thing. We were adding a certain percentage of upsell on 1 year versus 3-year contracts. So people were really driving 3 years. Some people were asking for 5-year contracts. So I learned a ton at that company because I kind of stepped out of security software and just into SaaS-based software. How that works.
Igloo is kind of unique though, because I mean, they were primarily selling at that point intranets, and not when I started. Anyways, lots of stories there, but yeah. Anyways, yeah,
I bet.
The gym factor. Anyways, it's all good. But and I mean, you got pretty good about sniffing if an internet was being useful to an organization. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you became so successful, because you guys began to understand, is this actually adding value to the organization?
Yeah, that was super key. But again, I think it was also customer interaction. I don't really think Igloo had very strong customer interaction at the time. Everything was net new focused, and they had some really powerful customers there. And all it took was, getting a really good customer success person to start interacting with the customer, setting a plan like, hey, have we met your desired outcome from the reason you wanted to buy this software? Have we even met that yet? So going through those motions, and then executive sponsorship, like I was right in there with every customer. So to me, it was all trust. Like we just built new trust with the customer base, and it really excelled. I mean, not advantage, but one of the things that was just truly amazing is when COVID kicked in and everybody just then now started to work from home. I think we had the highest upsell in Igloo history in like 6 months because everybody needed this software. It changed from like, yeah, it's kind of essential to like, this is mission critical stuff to us now because we have to communicate with our employees. So that was a pretty cool factor.
Yeah. And then also the contracts. I think when I left, the biggest deal I'd done was NII.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Brazil, and I think Haggerty had just come in. I think it was, but I was a dead man walking. I had a bit of a disagreement with some people. Anyways,
I've been there. Yeah. It's funny. One of the biggest customers at Igloo, which I think I can say because they were publicizing, was Leidos, which is a military contractor. 2 weeks ago for Maptin.
Not CSC. Who were they before? No, they were. Leidos was formerly not CSC. They were SAIC.
Correct. Then through Maptin, because they are a military contractor and public safety contractor, I was down there 2 weeks ago, and I said, hey, that tool you guys used to use called Prism. The guy's like, oh yeah, we still use that all the time. Like, oh, I got a story for you.
So Prism was what? Was that?
That was the branded version of. Yeah, that was their branded version of their Igloo.
Very cool.
Yep. Yeah. So my paths crossed.
So there. You're at Igloo, and then where did you go?
Yeah, so I left Igloo because again, like with private equity change, they changed CEOs. They brought in a new CRO and a new CMO that were all friends of friends, and I thought I don't fit in with the friends anymore here. So I ended up leaving Igloo, and I promised myself, Daniel, I'd learned so much at Igloo in SaaS, and customers, and communication. When I was there, I'm like, I'm never going back into security. Like, I am not going into that low dollar hard thing with all these grumpy old people. And then this opportunity popped up.
Let me drill into that because I remember when I was at Performance Soft. And I remember engaging with a lot of the people, and they were ancient. Like the demographic was old. And a lot of them were retired military or retired police officers who were running security for like Fortune 500s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever. I would tell any Fortune 500 company when they're like, "Hey, we want to redo our whole risk program. We know this ex cop from down the street." I would say, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Number one, they're retired. They don't really have interest in being there 12 hours a day. Number two, the corporate security industry is just absolutely way different than the private sector or the public sector police arena. Totally different entities to come in and learn. But yeah, there are a lot of old people. The great thing today is you would find the new style corporate security director or chief security officer is younger. They are tech savvy. They are AI savvy. I mean, it's a different world on when you're speaking to them than it was 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, it would have been a retired old person, grumpy. This is the way. Now they're very smart, intellectual, tech savvy based people that understand business. And when you're in the security industry, you have to understand how a business operates to understand, what am I protecting here? Like, if something happens in this business, do they really care? Because you have asset protection, which are people, buildings, and assets. And one of the biggest assets is a corporate brand. And if something happens to that corporate brand, it can cost you more money than someone stealing laptops and other things. So understanding business is really, really key to understanding security these days, and why security protects people, and what assets are you protecting, and how you tie it all together. It's really super important. So it's really good to see that it's a young kids game now. And now I'm the dinosaur looking back saying, wow, like, holy cow, this is really cool stuff.
So you went to Maptin and
No, actually, I didn't finish my story. Sorry about that. I went to a company called Right Crowd. So Right Crowd was owned by a guy named Peter Hill out in Australia. It's an Australia founded company, and they do what's called PIAM, Physical Identity and Access Management, which is a really, really cumbersome, complex tool that was designed 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I heard it was a real complex tool, and then you went like Marceau.
Yeah, well, maybe that was my subconscious saying, don't say this out loud. So it was this identity and access management is a really complex tool. Peter was running a company that was global diverse, but they're based in Australia. They had a US scale up happening. And he had heard that I had left Igloo and called me up and said, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to come in and help me just operationalize this company. Is it something you'd be interested in?" My first thought was, oh, I promised myself never, no more, no security. Peter ran me through it, and I thought, yeah, I can fix this company. So that was one of the first times I actually looked at something, looked at the different components of the company, and I thought, I can fix this. Like, I know this I can fix within a month. This is going to take me 3. This is going to be 9. And by the time I get here, I know exactly what is going to happen. So I took the job with Right Crowd. I became the president, chief operating officer of the entire company. And it was, one of those things, Daniel, where you look back and I'm like, gee, I think I actually learned something like the last, probably been 15 years, 20 years in the industry now. Something as simple as, pricing. They were still on perpetual model pricing with lots of professional services. And it was a very easy switch to say, hey, we're just going to change this pricing a little bit here. And, just the feedback is one, I was the new guy coming in, and there was this established group of people. And I'm like, no, we're going to make this change over here. And like, we've never done it that way. We've been doing it this way for 15 years, and it's always worked. And I'd be, yeah, it's always worked. That's why we make this much revenue. We need to make this much revenue. So it's very simple changes like pricing structure, people structure. And then again, that customers aren't going to run away when you say, we're going to have to charge you for this. So I actually took the plan that we were doing at Igloo and part of PPM, where we would put teams into big projects. And I went to their biggest customer and I just said, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to give you a team of people dedicated to your project to keep your trains running. They are going to be available just for you. And of course, the chief security officer was like, oh, okay, yeah, how much is that going to cost me? And I told him, and he was literally like, oh, okay, that's a big deal. You do that 10 times over, that money scaled really, really quick. I just took the 10 biggest customers. I'm like, here's what I want to do for you. If they said no, I would have been shocked. They might have said, oh, can you cut that in half to start? I would have said, sure, because I would have known in a year they're going to double it anyways. Every single one said, yep, this is what I have needed. So we increased the revenue, we increased the customer satisfaction for each one that they started expanding. And because we changed their license model, the revenue just grew. And you sit back and you think, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe it worked. But they're repetitive models that, you could jump into a company tomorrow and say, okay, I think I can fix this company because for the last, I think you've been in this industry like 100 years now, right? Just little things that you can easily just fix. And then there are hard decisions. There are always hard decisions along those paths where you have to say, this is a hard decision. This is going to have, a human impact or changes that, they're not all easy decisions. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so what happened?
Yeah. So what happened is I got to that. I increased the revenue. I went and got a private equity firm to come in and help fund the company. And they were like, yep, absolutely. This fits our bill. We are culture first. We are people first. We have a clear direction. I got the equity. And within 3 months, they were like, we have a new plan. You're fired. See you later. Which that's the one I didn't see coming. That's the one I'm like, wait a second. I constructed this. I'm the one. I went and found you. I went and dated you guys and sourced this. Yeah. That's just one of those things in acquisitions that you don't know what's going to happen. I thought that was going to be like, I had a really good funding and had a really good plan. It was going to take off. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to sail this engine. This thing is going to be huge. And they were like, yeah, we have a new idea and you're not part of it.
How did they do without you?
I think they've done okay. It's hard because I took it from public, which is very open on the numbers. You can't hide it. It is what it is, to private, where the numbers are not as open.
Oh, so that's a complex transaction going from
public
to private.
Yep. It was a public to private that also involved a carve out of one of the products that became a different company. It was really complex.
Was it a European VC or PE firm or North American?
No, it's New York based.
Okay.
Yeah, New York based firm. It was one of those ones that became very, what's the term? Acrimonious between founder and PE investor, because it got personal with certain parts. So it had all the makings of where I said, Class Capital was really good to deal with, said exactly what they were going to do, very trustworthy. This one turned out to be, acrimonious, lawsuits down the line, changes almost immediately, and you just sit there and you go, wow, like this is why people talk about private equity and why it doesn't work and stay away from it. It's a gamble. Like that one, I had actually really had faith in that private equity. And I don't want to call it a snow job, but as soon as that company took over, it was like a complete left turn right away, where it was like, hey, we are all about culture. No, it was all about the dollars. People got trimmed off the top. They put people in. Class Capital did not do that. Here
at itself is do your homework. Because I remember when we sold Patient Prompt, we had I think we had 14 bidders, and then we went down to 4, and then we knew, I knew because I'd been through it several times that I'd probably be gone. So you want to make sure that it comes with the territory, right? So and then the thing we did is we went actually looked at Glassdoor to see how these organizations treated their employees and what people said about them. And so we actually didn't say yes to the 2 highest deals. We actually went for the 3rd.
Yeah.
And ultimately it was a good organization, worked out well for the employees, and the organization had a really good culture. But it makes a huge difference because there are sharks out there who, absolutely will hack and slay.
Yeah. And a good point on the highest not always being the best. There were, same as Right Crowd, there were other vendors that were higher, but they were very clear when they said, hey, this is the price and we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. There were also ones that were much lower and said the same thing. They came in, they're like, we will offer you this much money, but just so you know, we're going to do this and do this and do this and do this. And it was kind of like, yeah, I think we're done. So I don't think we need to talk anymore here, but you do. It's just really hard, but it's one of those things that if you're going to get into private equity or you're expecting to be acquired, there are a lot of things that you probably don't expect are going to happen. One of them you just mentioned is you should expect that you may not be there 1 to 3 years is probably the biggest thing. Other thing is, hey, yeah, it might be your house and you might have designed and built this house handcrafted with wood that you got from your forest, but someone else that buys it, they're going to renovate the kitchen and they're going to do all kinds of of things to your house. And I think a lot of founders take that very, very personally. I actually did when Class took over. As things started to move along, there's all these changes. We acquired Resolver and all these things were happening. And I was like, hang on a sec, you're like destroying my family here. Like this can't be happening. So you kind of learn that you can't take it personal no matter what. If you take it personal, it's one of the barriers to an acquisition. I've done quite a few acquisitions. I've probably done more that didn't work out, and most of the ones that don't work out, well, a lot of it comes down to financial, but a lot of it also comes down to something personal gets in the way. The founder says, hey, like, am I going to get to sit on the board, or what are you doing with me, or what are you going to do here? One little thing that it just becomes too personal for the founder, the CEO, and that deal starts to go south really quick. And it's usually something like that. If the number is low, it's usually one of the arguing points, but you can clear that up. You can't clear up the personal. As soon as it gets personal, it gets really disruptive fast. And they say there's a million ways to kill a deal. There are 10 million ways to kill a deal. The good stories are there's probably better stories in the deals that got killed than the ones that went through.
For sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes the best thing to do is to kill a deal, right? Just because
absolutely
the downside can be so terrible.
That's a really super point, actually. You should never be afraid to kill the deal yourself. I think you get entrenched in it, and when you get to points thinking, gee, should we just walk away from this? Like I'm really not liking it. If you don't like the deal, walk away, kill it. Yep, on both sides, whether you're buying or being bought.
Yeah, for sure. And I always believe in trying to find the synergy. That's where the 2 and 2 equals 4 or 5 or 20. I mean, if you don't have that path somewhere, it's just an economic, acquire. I mean, I remember when one of our companies was acquired, we thought it was all about the synergy because an analyst recommended. I was actually triggered the analyst connection for the acquisition. And then at the end of the day, I just remember finding out later in the game, I won't say the company because I don't to get anyone in trouble. But the reason why they acquired us was because they could hide a bad quarter.
Is that all you have to do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they could put all these charges and things like that, move money around and stuff. And it was just like, no, we didn't buy you for the synergy. Like, no, you're smoking crack. No, we bought you so we could hide the bad quarter.
At least they were clear. Yep. That makes it very clear, right?
Yes, exactly.
I did the right crowd thing. Again, I structured that deal and it's one of those ones that, hey, I'm out the door and looking for something. And, timing is everything. Getting out of that contract, one of the companies I was talking to was a company called Swift Connect. Almost immediately out of getting a right crowd, I connected with Swift Connect because they were interested in the PIM industry and getting into it. So I went there for 18 months, which was really a direct, very narrow box assignment for me, which I'd also never done before. I'd been running teams and full companies for 15, 20 years. And this one was like, hey, come on over here. Here's what we want you to do. There are no teams. You're an individual contributor reporting to the CEO. This is what we want you to look at. I did that and I thought I would love it. I thought, okay, this is going to be great. I don't have to manage people anymore. I don't have to grow anything. I just have to do this little thing. And then after a little bit, I was like, yeah, I'm not built for this I am not built to be an individual contributor at all. Just not at all. Because I'd see something and I'd be like, I'd be like, I could fix that. But you have no control on it, right? You have no oversight on it. And I'd be like, I can fix that. I know how to change that revenue. And then just back in October, I was at a security trade show in Toronto called Security Canada Central, probably the biggest trade show in Canada for this market. And I had known Maptin for quite a while. The CEO, Hung Wei, and I had connected way just after the Igloo days after I separated from Igloo. One of the board members at Igloo, whose name shall not be discussed here, put me in touch with Hung Wei. The timing wasn't, Maptin was kind of just starting, but they started to grow. 15 years later, I was at this trade show and I was on the show floor. And this one demo is taking a guy through incident response. So there's an incident on the go and people are responding. And the guy beside me is like, it's really cool. He's like, can you put that on a map? And the guy's like, of course. Like, yeah, sure. Like, calls up a Google map and the Google map's got a red dot on a building. And this guy beside me is like, oh, that is cool. And I was like, what? Like, why? Why is that so cool? He's like, well, because now I can see where the incident is. And I'm like, dude, you just told him that's your building. You obviously know where it is. I said, hey, can you actually show me the inside of that building because you just told us it's on like the 6th floor or the 8th floor or something like this Google map on top of the roof is not where it is. It's like, oh, of course I can. Yeah. So he fumbles around, goes into his Windows folder. He calls up this PDF with a scan of a floor plan that's on a tilt. And the guy beside me again, he's like, oh, yeah, that is cool. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I literally took my phone. I took a picture of this display. I stepped out of the trade show booth and I sent a text to Hungway. And I said, dude, when are you going to fix indoor mapping for security and public safety? And he's like, I've been meaning to call you. Can you come in? So I went in and it just happened to be this transition time or was becoming a focus, and now it's a mission critical app going into all over the world. So I've ended up, timing is everything, just ended up in this really cool role back in technology doing what I do in public safety. So it's police, it's firefighters, it's corporate security, it's incident management, it's cool technology. It's just really, but I also get to play like, hey, I can help grow the business this way. I can grow the business that way. So there's kind of this mixed scale up. It's private equity based, but I will say the private equity here, Edison Partners, really, really good company. Really great to deal with so far. Really bought in, very culture centric, where one told me they were culture centric and they were not.
They were their culture,
Yeah.
not your culture.
Couldn't say it better. That's a good question to ask when they say we're culture centric. You say which one? Yeah, so it's been a good ride, Daniel. If you had told me back in late 1900s, when I was literally walking the beat, because that's the only thing I wanted to do in my life. If the technical fairy dropped in front of me and said, hey, in 2026, you will have run a whole bunch of companies, software technology companies, and bought and sold them, I would have been like, Mr. Technology Fairy, I'm going to have to arrest you because you don't know what you're talking about. Because all I wanted to do back then was I just wanted to be a cop. I was a young kid. I wanted to get, scuffles and chases and catch bad guys and do fun things, which I got to do. But then, computers came along and different things happened that changed your life. And I really just took a big, giant risk in doing it, which people will say, that couldn't have turned out really, really bad. It could have. But it's the one
good calculated risk, the trends and the motion.
Yeah. Even, there's another former Waterloo Regional cop that actually lives in my town here, Jad DeLeva, who started Magnet Forensics, just quit policing, saw a technology opportunity, started a company, and now I would say Magnet is the new BlackBerry of Waterloo Region. I mean, they are absolutely
they're a unicorn for sure.
Yeah, they're absolutely huge and growing still. And and that was another guy just taking a risk. He also gave up his pension, which I don't think he regrets now, judging by the size of the house he has out off highway up here.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been a good ride.
So I mean, you've got kids.
I do.
What are you telling them to do in this current world?
Well, I'll be quite honest on one, going to skilled trades. I think you have to look at your kid. So I have one kid who wants to be in skilled trades. He's very good with his hands. My other two, my middle son wants to get into policing or firefighting. So he's in school for that. It's really hard to tell them like, hey, focus on this or do this. But I tell them, just watch trends, read articles, get off your phone and try and understand what the industry is doing, because there are so many things that are changing the industry right now. Like the technology that exists today for first responders is crazy unreal compared to what, like, there was really no technology when I was doing it. So even if you, for whatever reason, you don't become a police officer, you don't become a firefighter, even if you like the industry, there is lots of cool stuff that surrounds all of it. I was at a firefighter convention 2 weeks ago, and I've never really been entrenched in the firefighter world. It's always been police and security. And just seeing some of the amazingly cool stuff in firefighting is really...
I'm trying to get my son to go start thinking about robotics, like the next wave, just because it's going to impact so many industries: healthcare, seniors care, policing, fire, everywhere, everything. Construction.
Everything. Robotics is already disrupting the industry. Yeah. It's replacing man guarding, because robots, they are there 24/7. You tie robotics into AI, the reactions are faster, the reactions are better. It is happier. Safer. That's a good point. It's absolutely disruptive. Yeah.
And you're just a data set that they would use in your new company, right? Which is great. So it's a nice intersection, and it also allows amplification of the use of your solution, just because so many more data points.
So many
consumptions. So just
Yeah,
like,
and like the way technology drives right now, there's one company am I allowed to say company names that we work
yeah.
with? Yeah, it's called Thrive Logic. Back when I was doing PPM days, we had an incident response engine. So an incident would happen, a thing would pop up and say, "Here, this is on the go," and we had standard operating procedures that would pop up, which was literally, Daniel, a Microsoft Word document that would pop up that had a checklist. It's okay if this happens, call this person. If this happens, do this. They had like little. Then we advanced it where you could actually check the box off. That was really a big seller back then when you could do that. Even back then when I was doing PPM stuff, we could not see the indoors. If something happened on the indoors, it was really hard to display like it is happening on the fourth floor in this corner over here, and here's your nearest officers. This Thrive Logic company does the same thing. So it's kind of like a new age PPM style. But because it's AI based, it is doing just the coolest thing. So number one, their SOPs are all just language learning models that it learns the SOPs as you go. So if you have, an alarm trigger goes off and it's a sprinkler alarm or something, it'll be like, well, here's the SOP. You need to call the water company. But in fact, I've already done that for you, and I've sent them this and I've sent them that. It's just so much quicker and so much better that it actually, to me, it can be life saving because it's making decisions as it goes. You can still have a human interaction to it, but it's just how it does it is so cool because now you can take a whole scenario and really envision how everything is happening and how it's unfolding. You get access to information you didn't have before. It's learned from other models from similar situations. It's just crazy unreal, right down to even cameras. Like now cameras can watch for certain things. So the CEO at Thrive was telling me, the security aspect of one project he was working on was getting so good that it could the cameras could be watching for something and say, "Hey, watch for this, and if it happens, do it." And they're like, "Hey, could you do us a favor? We're having a big problem with that garbage can over in the corner." It's like, "What do you mean you have a problem with the garbage can?" It's like, "Well, when that garbage can gets full, people just start throwing their garbage on the floor. Can your cameras tell us when that garbage can gets full so we can send someone?" He's like, "Of course, it's a sensor. So if you tell us what to watch for, we're going to watch for it." So the whole convergence of technology, watching things, looking at things, telling it what to look for, and then sending a trigger. That trigger could be, "Hey, send someone over there to empty the garbage can." Or it could be, "Hey, someone just fell down on the ground. They've been down for 10 seconds and no one's responded yet." It's just a fascinating world of what's happening
Yeah,
out
and the
there.
amount of data, because I mean, there's so many
Oh,
data points now. It's just insane.
so many.
Well, I always like to close because we're almost at an hour. Just like,
Are we
and we can
really?
talk. Oh yeah,
That's
we
been
can
an
talk.
hour. It's the most I've talked to you in like the last 20 years. Our phone calls are normally like 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. You swear at me and then you hang up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then you say, "We'll go for lunch one day. I'll buy you lunch," and then I never hear from you again.
So, along the way, did you have a mentor or series of mentors? Who would be the guys you said helped shape you? I know the initial guy at PPM you learned a lot from.
Yeah, Dennis O'Sullivan was a huge
He's a good
mentor
guy. I
to me.
remember him.
Yeah, really super guy. I probably owe everything that has happened from moving into private sector all the way along to Dennis O'Sullivan and the team at PPM. Across the path, you meet so many great people that have, different influences on different things. Even recently, one of my exits, I got put into an executive transfer program, LHH Knightsbridge. It's called the ICEO program, and they align you to a well-established former CEO. I got aligned to a guy named Bashar Alhani out of Toronto, super established CEO who, just in the last short period of time has become a really good mentor to me. But, I haven't known him for that long, but he just has taught me a whole bunch in a short period of time. I have other people that have taught me, a whole bunch over long periods of time. It's when you look back across your career, you're really like, I really appreciated that person that did these small things. And I think it's the little small things that happen along the way. Even at Igloo, I don't know. Did you deal with Jason Hahn? Did you ever? Well, no, because he came in when I was there. One thing I learned from him is every time I got on a call with him, he was the CRO that came in. We worked really well together. He would always ask me, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" Like he just had, always started off just very personable, making sure you're okay. Anything bugging you was always the first thing he said. And it just really kind of stuck with me. So
That's awesome. I mean, I'm a lifelong learner and I love it.
oh,
When
absolutely.
I get proven wrong, a lot of people hate it when you're proven wrong. I'm just going, nope, it just makes me better. Just
Yeah,
yeah.
that's funny. One of the best courses I ever took in my entire life. It's called Inquiry Driven Leadership. It's done out of Sloan, MIT. It's based on the book called Questions Are the Answer by Hal Gregerson. One of the core concepts in that book is when you wake up today, figure out what you're going to be proven wrong and accept it. And a lot of people don't like to be proven wrong, but it's one of the best things as a leader is to wake up and think, okay, I have an idea and I think it's the right idea. I need someone to prove it wrong. Like, don't be afraid to be proven wrong.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
or
with my
get it wrong.
team, Malika will scream, but if she hears the word thesis one more time, she'll probably explode.
Thesis,
So-
right? Well, it's a thesis. If it fails, that's not a bad thing. Like they say, just fail quick, right? Just fail,
Yeah.
fail
Yeah.
quick.
So, well, Brian,
That's the
this
key.
has been awesome. We're over our time. I would love to do another one, but we have
Oh,
to really get together.
Yeah, that would be great. We should actually get together and we can talk other things. But thanks for having me on here. You've had some pretty incredible people on this podcast.